My fiancé had his best friend marry me in his place, but I decided to turn that fake marriage into something real. I ended up falling in love with his best friend, and we lived together as if we were truly husband and wife. When we finally registered our marriage and made it official, my former fiancé completely lost his mind. In my past life, I gave up the chance to join the Fireseed Project at the National Academy of Sciences just so I could marry Daniel Reed. I even cut off all contact with my parents because I was determined to marry him and no one else. But on our wedding day, Daniel chose to go pick up his true love, Clara, and asked his best friend, Michael Lewis, to take his place as the groom. I didn't blame Daniel. I went through with the wedding as he wished, marrying Michael and returning to what should have been my bridal home, waiting for the wedding night with a mix of hope and nervous excitement. But later, Daniel showed up with Clara. He told me that even though he didn't love me, he would still take responsibility and go through with the marriage registration, but only if I agreed to let Clara live with us. He swore that nothing improper had ever happened between them, that they were completely innocent. For the sake of staying with him, I foolishly agreed to that absurd condition. After that, Clara began to set me up again and again. The meals I spent hours cooking, she would drizzle honey into them, take a bite, and then pretend to have an allergic reaction. Daniel would panic, rush her to the hospital, and she'd accuse me of trying to harm her. She even poured water into her cosmetics and then pretended to forgive me, saying she didn't blame me because she was just a guest in our home. Once, she planted a diamond necklace Daniel had given her years ago in my drawer and accused me of stealing it. Later, she replaced my vitamins with birth control pills, but I caught her before her plan could succeed. Because of Clara's constant manipulation, Daniel's attitude toward me grew colder and harsher. I saw disgust and impatience in his eyes every time he looked at me, yet even then I never blamed him. I thought my love alone would be enough. When I found out I was pregnant, I was overjoyed. I thought this would be the good news that could finally bring us back together. But Daniel just said a faint "oh" and nothing more. Clara, on the other hand, was shocked. She thought I couldn't get pregnant after switching my vitamins. She had been waiting for Daniel to completely despise me so she could replace me. She had no idea I already knew her tricks. I believed that with this baby, Daniel would come back to me and we could finally be happy. But when I was 9 months pregnant and went into labor, Daniel left me at home to take Clara, who only had a mild fever, to the hospital. I begged him to stay, to think of the baby, to take me too. Clara coldly said I was overreacting, and that my due date hadn't arrived yet. Daniel, convinced by her, left me behind. Because I wasn't taken to the hospital in time, both my baby and I died. As my life faded away, I saw Michael rushing into the hospital. He held me in his arms, crying, confessing the love he had hidden for so long. Only then did I realize that there had always been someone who truly loved me. I just never noticed. I died with endless regret in my heart. Then, in the haze of fading light, I opened my eyes again and saw myself standing in front of a mirror wearing a white wedding dress. I had been reborn. I was back on my wedding day. That meant I could see Michael again. Tears filled my eyes. In my previous life, he had given up his own chance to join the Fireseed Project just to protect me. He stayed by my side, loving me silently, even when I never looked his way. Thinking of that, my heart trembled. In my heart, I swore, "Michael Lewis, this time I won't let you slip away again." As the wedding music swelled, I walked in slowly, the hem of my white dress brushing the floor. When I reached the groom's side, I blushed and waited for him to turn around. Just like in my previous life, the groom wasn't my fiancé. It was his best friend, my childhood companion, Michael Lewis. With tears glimmering in my eyes, I teased him softly. "Why is it you? Do you really want to be my groom that badly?" This time, there was no shock in my voice, only the quiet joy of seeing him again after so long. He reached out to steady me, his eyes filled with warmth. Leaning close, he whispered, "Daniel called me this morning. He said Clara's back from abroad, and he went to pick her up. He asked me to stand in for him and walk you through the ceremony." In my past life, those words shattered me. Even though I had long known Daniel never loved me, hearing it on my wedding day crushed me completely. His love for Clara was like a fortress I could never break through. Still, I clung to him shamelessly, hoping one day he'd choose me. Looking back now, it feels laughable and pitiful. Then, I heard the whispers of the guests below the stage. "What's going on? The groom changed? Where's Daniel? Don't tell me he ran away again because of Clara." Poor Lisa. Such a good girl. And she's still blinded by that man. Some of Daniel's friends whispered too, their voices full of pity and gossip. Hearing them, my tears fell uncontrollably. I didn't even know whether I was crying for the years I wasted loving Daniel, or for the man standing across from me now. Michael had been silently enduring the humiliation with me, but suddenly, he took the microphone from the host and knelt down before me. His voice was steady, yet filled with deep sincerity as he said, "Lisa, my name is Michael Lewis. I'm the boy you've known since childhood, the one who's always quietly supported you from behind. I've been your classmate for 10 years, the person who knows you better than anyone else. I've loved you deeply, but never had the courage to say it. I've loved you to my very bones, but never showed it, because your heart was always with Daniel, and you never once looked my way. But this time, I'm not just standing here in his place to marry you. I want to protect you with everything I have for the rest of my life. I want to make you my real bride. If you're willing to marry me, I'll spend my life guarding you, loving you, cherishing you. Lisa, will you marry me?" Michael's confession left me completely stunned. In my previous life, he never said these words. Back then, he had only gone through the wedding to protect my dignity. Michael and I had known each other since we were children. Our parents both worked as researchers at the National Academy of Sciences. We grew up together side by side, sharing a deep and innocent friendship. But I never once saw him as more than that. My heart had always belonged to Daniel Reed, and I gave him everything. My time, my loyalty, my love, without hesitation. Yet Daniel only ever loved one woman, the one he called his white moonlight, Clara. I still remember when Clara was kidnapped. Daniel went alone to rescue her, taking multiple stab wounds and nearly losing his life to save her. Afterward, I stayed by his hospital bed day and night, caring for him while Clara, once rescued, left the country without even looking back. Daniel could have been promoted when he returned to the army, but because he acted without orders and got injured, he lost that chance. I stayed with him for 4 long months, tending to his wounds until he fully recovered. When he finally did, he claimed he had moved on from Clara and chose to marry me instead. We never had a real proposal. No engagement photos. He didn't even go with me to pick out my wedding dress, but I didn't care. As long as he was willing to marry me, I was happy. I never imagined our wedding would turn out like this. But thankfully we hadn't registered the marriage yet, which meant I still had a choice. Thinking of that, I looked at the man kneeling before me. His eyes were filled with emotion, his face calm yet deeply moved. Michael Lewis, the boy I'd known all my life. We had entered the youth program at the National Academy of Sciences together when we were 16. He was brilliant, gifted, and came from a family of scholars. He was kind, steady, and genuine. As memories of our past flashed before me, I suddenly realized how good this man truly was. My heart softened. With tears shimmering in my eyes, I whispered, "Michael Lewis, I'm willing to marry you." The entire wedding hall fell silent. Every guest stared in disbelief. But when I turned to look at my parents, I saw relief and quiet joy in their faces. They had always hoped I'd one day marry Michael. From the very beginning, he was their ideal son-in-law. But back then, I had been too stubborn, too blind, chasing after Daniel without caring how my parents felt. In this life, I swore I'd never make them worry again or break their hearts. Suddenly, Michael's parents arrived at the venue, slightly out of breath but glowing with happiness. They hurried to the stage, accepted the corsages of honored father and honored mother from the host, and proudly pinned them to their chests. "We came as soon as we heard the news," Mr. Lewis said excitedly. "Today, the Lewis family welcomes our daughter-in-law. We couldn't be happier. Lisa has long been the daughter-in-law we've hoped for. I apologize for how sudden this is, but please, everyone, let's continue the ceremony as planned." With his announcement, the ceremony resumed smoothly. This time, my heart had already made its choice. My groom was no longer Daniel Reed. It was Michael Lewis. As for Daniel, his parents had always looked down on me, saying I wasn't good enough for their son. They didn't even have the decency to attend the wedding. None of his relatives came either, and honestly, I preferred it that way. At least no one could interfere with my marriage to Michael. The ceremony went on beautifully. During the toast, Michael's mother removed a family heirloom bracelet from her wrist and gently placed it on mine. Her eyes were filled with tears as she smiled and said softly, "Welcome to the family." After the ceremony, I took Michael's hand and said, "Let's go get our marriage certificate right now." Our parents had waited for this moment for years. Once everything was done, I packed up all my things, left Daniel behind completely, and moved into my new home with Michael. Daniel never appeared, not even once, to offer an explanation. I deleted every way he could contact me and erased him from my life entirely. That evening, as we were having dinner with Michael's parents, their expressions suddenly turned serious. "Lisa," Mr. Lewis said solemnly, You know that both our families have dedicated our lives to research at the National Academy of Sciences. The interests of our country always come first. We've given everything for it, and we have no regrets. Our lives belong to the nation." He paused, then continued. "You remember the Fireseed project we told you about before? It's recruiting again. You and Michael were both top students in the youth program, and this time, the country has entrusted us with a vital mission." Mr. Lewis looked at us kindly, but with firmness in his voice. "We hope the two of you will carry on our legacy and continue serving the nation," he said. "Back then, when we invited you to join, your heart was completely tied to Daniel, and you refused without hesitation. But now that you and Michael are married, I hope you'll think about it carefully." "Yes," I replied softly. "I really do need to think about it carefully." Before, I had spent 3 long months preparing for my wedding with Daniel Reed, only to later realize that, to him, it had meant absolutely nothing. I looked at my parents, then at Michael, and said firmly, "Dad, Mom, Michael, I've decided. I want to join the Fireseed project." Michael's eyes immediately lit up with excitement. In my previous life, he had given up his own opportunity to join the project just to stay by my side and take care of me. But in this life, I wanted both of us to live without regrets. "What good kids," Mr. Lewis said emotionally. "Seeing you both married has finally lifted a great weight off our hearts. There's less than a month before the Fireseed project officially begins. You'll need to settle all your personal affairs before then. Once you sign the confidentiality agreement and join the classified research unit, you won't be able to contact the outside world anymore." Mrs. Lewis nodded seriously and added gently, "Make sure you handle everything properly, both of you. Once you enter that world, your lives will never be the same." "Got it, Mom, Dad," Michael said with a reassuring smile. "Lisa and I understand. We'll take care of everything." He squeezed my hand, and I smiled back at him warmly. Just as we were about to continue dinner, an ill-timed ringtone broke the quiet moment. Michael glanced at his phone and frowned when he saw the caller's name, Daniel Reed. He hesitated for a second, then took my hand and led me into the bedroom before answering. "Hey man, sorry to bother you today." Daniel's familiar lazy voice came through the speaker. "I've got some things to handle for Clara. Can you take care of Lisa for me a little longer?" Michael's tone turned cold. "Aren't you worried she'll find out?" Daniel chuckled. "Worried about what? Just buy her some flowers in a few days. She'll come running back like always. Besides, Clara doesn't have anyone else here. Who's going to help her if not me?" "And Lisa?" Michael asked sharply. "If you're really my friend, don't question me. Just handle it for me, okay?" Daniel replied impatiently and hung up before Michael could say another word. Each word felt like a slap across my face. Hearing Daniel's arrogance, his indifference, his sheer selfishness, I was shaken to my core. How could I have been so blind? How could I have wasted so much love on a man so unfaithful and self-centered? I turned to Michael with a faint, relieved smile. "You can block his number now." Michael let out a short laugh. "That goes without saying. I've had enough of that jerk. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have even answered." He immediately deleted Daniel's number and blocked every way he could reach him. I felt a sudden lightness in my chest, as if the final thread connecting me to my past had finally been cut. "All right," Michael said softly, wrapping his arm around me. "Let's plan out this next month. It might just be the longest vacation we'll ever get." I looked up at him, smiling. "Then let's take a honeymoon." His lips curved into a tender grin. "All right, I'll take you to see the Northern Lights. I know that's always been your dream." He brushed a strand of hair from my face, his touch warm and gentle. "Yes," I whispered, my voice trembling with emotion. "It's always been my dream. In my past life, no matter how many times I asked Daniel, he never once took me." A few days later, Michael and I arrived in the fjords of Norway. The cold night air shimmered with countless stars, and before my eyes, a ribbon of emerald green light unfolded across the sky. The aurora. It danced and flowed like waves, blending with shades of pink and violet, painting the snow-capped mountains and frozen rivers in breathtaking color. "Lisa," Michael said softly, his voice full of nostalgia. "Do you remember that night during freshman year when we released fireflies in the lab?" "Of course I do," I replied with a smile. Most of our classmates had never seen them before. It was beautiful, just like the northern lights we're seeing now. I leaned against Michael's shoulder, watching the sky shimmer above us. As the aurora reached its brightest, warmth filled my heart, peaceful and pure. Under that glowing sky, we exchanged rings, the lights above us like a galaxy blessing our love. In that moment, I finally understood what love was meant to be. Then, out of nowhere, my phone buzzed. It was a message from my best friend, Fang Lisa. Guess what? Daniel called me today. He said he couldn't reach you and wanted me to tell you to stop being so stubborn. He actually said, if she keeps acting like this, she'll never see me again. I couldn't help but laugh. Fang never held back when she talked about him. That guy must have lost his mind, she texted again. He's been acting like some big shot for so long, he actually thinks he's important. He should take a good look in the mirror. I burst out laughing. The man I once placed at the very center of my world was now being mocked so easily. And I didn't feel angry at all. Just amused, right? I typed back between giggles. I've never met anyone so full of himself. I honestly don't even know what to say anymore. Fang replied almost instantly. Forget him. Anyway, how are things with Michael? We're great, I wrote back. For the first time, I actually understand what love feels like. That's such a relief, she said. I'm so glad Michael's there for you. Otherwise, I'd be really worried. Fang was my closest friend, and the person Daniel always used to contact whenever he couldn't find me. She despised him now. By the way, she continued, I heard Daniel's precious white moonlight, Clara, went to a private hospital for an abortion. Then she told Daniel it was appendicitis and that she'd had surgery. And guess what? He actually believed her. He's been sitting by her bedside day and night. I frowned. Really? Yeah, she replied quickly. When Clara went abroad, it was because of some guy she was seeing. Then that guy dumped her. When she found out she was pregnant, she ran back home. And now Daniel's playing the perfect fool, taking care of another man's mess like some lovesick idiot. I sighed, shaking my head. That's wild, I texted back. Honestly, Daniel doesn't seem very smart these days. Fang sent a laughing emoji. He's completely lost it. Even his friends tried to warn him, but he thinks they're trying to break him and Clara apart. He's still convinced she's his one true love. Most of his buddies are so done with him, they've stopped talking to him altogether. She paused for a moment before sending one last message. Oh, and he still has no idea what really happened on your wedding day. Maybe he doesn't care enough to find out. Or maybe he's just too busy pretending everything's fine. Let him be, I replied. He chose his own path. Whatever happens now, that's his burden to carry. After chatting with Fang, I felt completely at ease. Clara had become the perfect mirror of karma for him. The more she trampled on his devotion, the more vindicated I felt. Michael and I spent the next 2 weeks traveling together. We crossed mountains and rivers, climbed snowy peaks, watched the aurora again, and shared every sunrise and sunset. With each passing day, our hearts opened more, our bond growing deeper and more passionate. Sometimes I caught myself regretting how I had failed him in my previous life. But this time, I was grateful. Grateful that fate had given us another chance. And this time, nothing. When we returned home, there were only 5 days left before the Fireseed project began. I met up with Fang again, and we spent the evening drinking and talking until late into the night. Neither of us knew when we'd see each other again. Maybe in 3 years, maybe 5, or maybe never. She looked at me, her eyes glassy from the wine, and said softly, You know what happened a few days ago? She took another sip, her cheeks flushed from laughter. Daniel actually showed up at my place. He said I must have been hiding you. He told me you've thrown your tantrum long enough, had plenty of time to cool off, and your anger should have passed by now. I raised an eyebrow, amused. Fang laughed even harder. Then he said he's giving you 5 days. If you don't contact him first, he won't register the marriage. Can you believe that? She nearly spilled her drink from laughing so hard. He's unbelievable. He doesn't even know what's going on, yet he still thinks you'll come crawling back. What a clueless idiot. I just smiled quietly, listening to her rant. 5 days. That would be exactly when Michael and I were leaving for the Fireseed project base. Perfect. At least by then, Daniel wouldn't be able to reach me again. Let's not ruin the mood talking about him, I said, lifting my glass with a grin. Come on, let's toast to new beginnings. Our laughter echoed long into the night. Our longest vacation eventually came to an end. When the day finally arrived, Michael and I boarded the transport vehicle arranged by our unit. During the ride, he suddenly reached into his backpack and pulled out a small silver fox ornament. Nestled inside was a single lily bloom. Lily, it's your favorite flower, he said softly. I turned to him, surprised. You remembered that? He smiled quietly, saying nothing, just looking at me with that warm, steady gaze that always made me feel safe. In the days that followed, we poured all our energy and passion into the Fireseed project. We worked side by side, supporting each other through every long night and every challenge. Meanwhile, in another part of the world, Daniel seemed to lose his mind the moment I disappeared. He searched for me everywhere, desperate and obsessed. Maybe he truly believed I'd never leave him, that no matter how he treated me, I'd always stay. But this time it was too late. He would never find me again. The next time I saw Daniel Reed was 20 years later. Michael and I had been invited to an international scientific forum. Daniel was there too, now a senior military officer assigned to oversee our security detail. When I saw him again, I barely recognized him. Time had carved deep lines into his face. The youthful arrogance he once carried was gone, replaced by something heavier, a quiet weight of regret. Our line of work had always been dangerous. There were people constantly watching us, waiting for any chance to steal the classified research we carried. Because of that, the government had arranged a full protection team for this trip. But even with every precaution, something still went wrong. On the way back, just as we were getting into the car, a sniper's bullet whistled through the air. I happened to be leaning down at that exact moment. The bullet grazed my right shoulder, missing anything vital. Before I could react, Daniel lunged forward, throwing himself over me, shielding me with his body. 2 more shots rang out. Daniel was hit twice, but he still pushed me inside the car and slammed the door shut. Panic erupted. The team scrambled for cover as gunfire echoed in the distance. My heart nearly stopped when I saw the blood spreading across Daniel's uniform. I rushed forward, trying to hold him up, my hands trembling. Michael immediately grabbed the emergency kit and began treating his wounds with steady, practiced movements. Thankfully, one of the security medics was nearby, and after a few tense minutes, they managed to stop the bleeding. Daniel's breathing steadied, but even as his strength faded, he gripped my hand tightly, refusing to let go. Michael hesitated to pull me away. He understood that after 20 years, this might be the last time Daniel and I ever spoke. Lisa, Daniel gasped weakly, his voice rough with pain. I finally found you. His eyes were wet, his expression a mix of relief and heartbreak. I've been searching for you like a madman for 20 years, but there was never a trace. Only after you were gone did I realize you were the one thing I could never live without. Without you, my life has been empty. I've been living worse than dead. He struggled to keep speaking, his hand still gripping mine. I tried everything, every contact, every favor, every resource I had. But your records were sealed. That's when I knew you must have joined a top-secret national project. He paused, breathing shallow. Lisa, there was never anything real between Clara and me. It was my fault. I took your love for granted. I trampled on your heart like it meant nothing. I thought you'd never leave. But when you were gone, his voice broke, a tear slipping down his cheek. I realized I didn't even know you. I didn't know which university you went to, what food you liked, what flowers you loved, or even where you lived. His eyes clouded with guilt and sorrow. It wasn't until you were gone that I finally understood. I had never truly cared for you at all. I always thought you were just angry with me, upset that I didn't show up at the wedding. I never imagined you had already decided to leave me for good. Lisa, in this life I truly wronged you. As Daniel spoke, his body trembled, and his voice broke with each word. Luckily, by then, we had already reached the military hospital, the safest place for him. After emergency surgery and hours of treatment, he finally pulled through. Michael and I took turns watching over him in the days that followed. 2 days later, Daniel woke up. When Michael texted to say he was conscious, I rushed to his room. But just as I reached the doorway, I heard their voices inside. Michael, Daniel said weakly, I had a dream. I dreamed that on our wedding day you didn't propose to her. I dreamed she forgave me, that we got married, that we had a child. But when she was about to give birth, I left her. Because of me, she and the baby both died. It felt so real, like it had just happened. Tears streamed down Daniel's face as he spoke. Michael's tone was calm. And Clara? What happened to the two of you after that? Daniel gave a bitter smile. She was a liar. I didn't realize it until later. After my military training, she told me she was going to study abroad in the US. But when I was about to marry Lisa, she suddenly said she couldn't let me go. Even though I was already engaged, she came back anyway. At first, I thought she'd changed, that she truly came back for love. But I was wrong. She was scheming from the start. He sighed deeply, his face filled with regret. Because I had already promised to marry Lisa, I rejected Clara every time. I ignored all her advances. When her plans failed, I wanted to find Lisa and explain everything. But Clara suddenly called, saying she was in the hospital after appendicitis and had no one to turn to. I was worried, so I stayed to take care of her for 2 weeks. Later, I found out the truth. She hadn't gone abroad to study. She went because of another man. When she got pregnant, he abandoned her. She came back hoping to trick me into sleeping with her and use that baby to force me into marriage, pretending it was mine. When her pregnancy began to show, she had an abortion and lied, saying it was appendicitis. He laughed bitterly. In the end, it was all my fault. I had someone as good as Lisa, yet I let a woman like Clara destroy everything. Then he looked up at Michael. What about you and Lisa? Do you have kids? Michael nodded. Yes, we have a son. He's 14 now. My parents take care of him most of the time since we're both busy with work. That's good, Daniel said quietly. After a pause, his voice hardened. You know, when I found out what happened on our wedding day, I couldn't believe it. After everything, after being like brothers, you of all people ended up taking her from me. I thought you'd betrayed me. It wasn't until I saw that all your records were sealed that I realized you were really gone. You actually took Lisa away from me. There was pain and disbelief in his tone, a mix of anger and pleading. Michael stayed calm. Daniel, do you want the truth? Of course, Daniel frowned. Don't tell me there's still something you've been hiding. All right, Michael said quietly. Then I'll tell you everything. That dream you had while you were unconscious? It wasn't just a dream. It was Lisa's real experience from her previous life. You don't remember, but I do. Back then, before I ever had the courage to confess to her, she had already fallen for you. She gave you everything, and I saw it all. I stayed by your side, calling you my brother, just so I could stay near her. Michael's voice grew heavier, but you were blinded by Clara. You never saw what Lisa felt for you, not once. Do you remember your 18th birthday that summer? Lisa secretly worked at a bakery just to learn how to make you a cake by hand. She practiced for weeks until she finally made a perfect heart-shaped one. She even booked a restaurant and invited all of us to surprise you. But you never showed up, because Clara cut her finger that day, and you stayed with her instead. Lisa waited for you for 10 long hours, crying as she ate that cake alone. His voice trembled slightly. Do you know how much I hated you that night? While we were studying at the academy, Lisa spent her weekends working part-time jobs to buy you gifts. She delivered food, waited tables, anything she could do. Once, she even got into an accident while delivering and fractured her left arm. It never healed completely. Yet, she used the money she saved for 6 months to buy you a custom-made suit. And you threw it away just because Clara said the color was ugly. You didn't just throw away a suit, Daniel. You threw away her effort, her love, 6 months of her heart. Michael took a breath. In my past life, I was a coward. I didn't confess my love to her at the wedding. And I didn't take her away from you. Because of that, she died in pain, unprotected. I swore that if I ever got another chance, I would protect her no matter what. So when I realized I'd been reborn on our wedding day, I acted immediately. I made all the arrangements because I refused to let her suffer again. Daniel's face went pale. Only then did he truly understand. He had been the one to destroy my life, while Michael had been the one who loved and protected me all along. Regret, shame, and grief filled his eyes. For the first time, he understood what love really meant. After that, he and Michael shook hands. The rivalry of their youth was gone. I had been standing outside the entire time, listening to every word. Only then did I realize how much Michael had done for me, how deeply he loved me, and that he too had been reborn. That was why, on our wedding day, his confession had felt so real, so full of emotion. By the time I processed it all, tears were already falling. I turned and quietly walked away. There was no need to tell him I had heard everything. Some truths are better kept in the heart. I already had Michael's love. That was enough for me. That night, when Michael came home, I was already asleep. He slipped into bed beside me, wrapped his arms around me, and whispered softly, I'm just glad that in this life I had the courage for both of us, that we didn't miss our chance. After that, Michael and I devoted ourselves completely to our country's research work. Together, we achieved breakthrough after breakthrough, pushing technology forward step by step. Eventually, from years of overwork, Michael fell ill. At 57, he passed away, leaving me behind. I didn't follow him because I knew my life still had purpose. I carried his love with me and continued our work, finishing the dreams he left behind. I was grateful that fate had given me a second chance, to love, to live, and to give my life meaning.